what's up? Can you hear me?
Yo, I can hear you, dude. Can you hear me? Is it loud and clear?
Very loud, very clear. That's good.
All right, sounds good, man. How you doing?
Good, man. How about you?
Dude, I'm doing great. I'm doing really good. I'm ready for some coaching. And with that being said as well, I guess if you wouldn't mind, let me know your league, your race, and your game plan, more or less.
Yeah, I am a Diamond 2 Zerg, and I have a problem with late game. I can't win any late.
Okay.
Basically, like my win rate percentage last season for like any game between like 3 and 8 minutes, it was like 90% win rate. But everything after, like probably 25% win rate.
Okay. Um. Well, I would say one of the biggest things we're going to talk about as well is when you basically when you like the early game setup is going to be a big part for the late game. Sorry, you chat. I turned him up as well. I'm reading what you guys are saying. Turned it up. The early game is going to be a big stage for like the late game. So if you have early game problems, we're definitely going to talk about that. It is a big indicator as to like how difficult the late game will actually feel. But other than that, we'll definitely jump into like your late game as well and kind of see the choices you make and things you could do better possibly. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So micro will definitely be a factor too, I guess, because you are a Diamond League, so it's not just gonna be macro. It's not like I'm just gonna be like, all right, dude, you need to make drones, and that's it.
Yeah, so I think one thing I noticed is like my early game is pretty strong. Like I think I got the Diamond League mainly because of my early game because I'm really aggressive. But then when that like when that like push fails, I try to match it behind it and I just never win.
Hold on. Okay. I know why it's a problem. So I'm listening to you as well, but my audio isn't actually playing through. One sec.
Okay, how
One second.
next what you got?
My chat's like, dude, he's really quiet, and I'm like, dude, he's blowing my fucking ears out right now. It's so loud because I turned you up really loud, and I'm like, how the fuck is it quiet? But it's because my audio's not playing.
Turn mine up too, so
Okay, I'm gonna have to turn you back down again. You're totally fine. You're loud and clear. My stream is not picking up my game audio or my PC audio. Now, if you talk, I bet chat's gonna be like, he's great.
perfect moment to do a troll sound, but never mind.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
no, it's all good. So I basically what was missed for what was said for the VOD for people if you ever for if anyone ever watches this again. He's Diamond 2, Zerg. His early game is not really the biggest problem. It's more of his late game to figure out what's going on there, and we're gonna look at that and figure it out. So, Mr. Jones, are you on BattleNet already right now on North America?
Yes, I am.
All right, go ahead and since the GM's not out right now, we have to do this a different way. Can you type just like in the chat /join space ViBE or something like that, just so you can get into a channel?
I'm in the Raiders channel right now.
Okay. Okay. Are you stealth shot?
No, time clutch.
Okay, my bad. All right, I'll just invite you like this. And then promote. And then there you go, dude. Hit us up with that replay whenever you're ready to go. Or, oh, wait. Were you the one? Oh, I have a couple of people ask me different questions, but were you the one who wanted to talk more like theory and not so much replay? I can't remember which one you were. There was a couple of people I talked to last night or a couple days ago.
With theory? With what?
So I just don't know if this was you. There was one person who specifically requested if we talk about. That was me? No, that's me. Okay, never mind. It's not you. Someone else wanted to talk about something else. I'm just trying to like put faces to names here.
Okay.
Yeah, but we can go into the replay. I'm good to go whenever you are.
Alright, I'm trying to figure out which one to show you. I got one where I tried to macro, but failed. Here, let's.
All right, pass me lobby host and we're good to go. Fuck yeah, nice. You know your shit. You know what's going on.
I've seen a few coaching's value.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
Yeah, this one I didn't do an aggressive early push because I wanted to have a replay to show you.
Yeah.
This is just I was trying.
And yeah, by all means, just to make sure you fully feel comfortable with it. If I'm mid-sentence and you want to ask me a question or talk or say something that's important to you, by all means, say it. Feel free to interrupt me. I do not mind at all. And then yeah, I mean,
Cool.
I'll really take a look at your early game setup because it literally makes the game either way harder for you or easier for you as the game goes on, based on how you make your choices early. And
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I'll speed it up a little bit, but we'll see exactly kind of how you're going here.
Take as much time as you need. Show me the way.
All right, so if you're going to, I agree with what you did, but then I also disagree with something you did just now. You rallied an egg out of 15 and 16 drones to your natural. If you're gonna do that, honestly, just go to 17 hatch instead of 16 hatch, because you'll have enough money to do it. If you're gonna go for a 16 hatch, I think a 16 hatch is required against Zerg and Protoss, not so much against Terran. But if you want to do if you just want to do 16 hatch universally, regardless, just rip a drone off your mineral line around like 190 minerals, which is going to be faster than what you did here. It's going to change your hatchery timing by basically, like, right now it says it's at 0.9 production out of 71. It could be like at 4 right now, or 3. And the reason why I say that is because watch your drone. Probably more like 3. It's very minor. It's minor, but you could build it right now. You could literally build it right now. At 49 seconds. And your hatchery goes down at 52. Almost 53. So, and yeah, it's just, I would say if you're going to go 17 hatch, the way you rallied your drone out would be fine. But for 16 hatch, yeah, rip a drone off the mineral line at like 190 and it'll speed it up.
Are these new map pools shorter shorter distance?
They're always, most maps are roughly going to be similar. It's usually going to be like a 30 to 45 second rush distance. Like 30's on the low end. It's going to usually be like a 40 to 45 second rush distance, usually, I would say.
Okay.
This map might be, I'll say this, if someone physically uses these speed zones in the middle of the map, that might speed it up a little bit more. I don't know how actually effective that would be. I've never really tested that yet. But yeah, I would say it's still going to be similar to other maps. It's not going to be like insanely fast or anything like that.
Yeah, I just get triggered when a fucking something gets in my way, placing the hatchery down.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, you can, by all means, you can go 16 hatch every game. That's totally fine. You could just do it even faster, though.
I gotcha. Thanks for tip.
Yep. All right, and then I really like that you're not ripping drones off the mineral line for your gas, because if you're not prioritizing it all in, this is totally perfect. You want to definitely prioritize your minerals if you're going to prioritize like a third base. One thing I would say that it could be fixed as well, because if you think about like what's happening right now, really nothing is happening right now. You're just making drones and you're waiting for your overlord to scout whatever it's going to scout. You could definitely fix your mineral line, because right now you have 2 patches that have 3 drones per patch, and you have and those are both in the very middle of your mineral line, and then you have the very far 2 right patches, both only have 1 drone, and the one that really screws you over is the very, very far right close patch. Now, having only 1 drone on a close patch and having 3 drones on a far patch definitely screws your economy up a little bit. Like, you're gonna be missing out on probably like 25 minerals a minute. Then it's gonna happen every minute per drone. That's fucked up like that.
So I should just fix that when the game starts, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't have to worry about this on natural third base, fourth base, whatever, because the game is way more developed at that point, and you have way more money being just invested, so it's way less noticeable. But early game like this, when there's nothing happening and you literally are just staring at your base anyways as it is, definitely try to fix it. Try to always make 2 drones per patch every single game.
Okay.
And then if it makes it really easy too if you're not going to disrupt your mineral line either, because you're going to make new drones for the gas. It makes it super easy just to maintain no disruption in your mineral line. Because yeah, like I said, you're gonna probably miss out on like probably 25 minerals a minute on that close patch, and maybe like 18 to 20 minerals a minute on that far patch. So if like 3 minutes goes by, that's like a free overlord right there or something. Like, it does make a little bit of a difference, and your minerals get stretched really, really thin within the first 3 minutes of the game. Because the first 3 minutes of the game, you're doing all these huge expenses like queens, like your initial overlords, your third base cost with your natural, all these things. It speeds up the process of getting all of it going, and the faster it gets going, the easier your mid game will be.
All right. See, at this part of the game, I feel very comfortable. It's weird. It's hard to explain, but I'll tell you what part I start not being uncomfortable. When it gets to that point of the game, I'll tell you which part I start getting uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure. I get what you mean. A lot of things too that come from like a level of comfort and not having comfort is basically how much of like a defensive posture your opener has, and a lot of that comes from vision. So I mean, we'll also talk about like things like your overlord positioning, stuff like that, and the way your build develops beyond what it already is. And like for instance, right now I can see your build is already something that I'm gonna ask you a question before I negatively talk about it. Are you a person that goes for overlord speed on a regular basis?
No.
Okay, well then your build I think could be fixed, because right now you're leaving 3 drones on gas, and you've also not prioritized a drone for your third. So what I think you should do, this is how you fix it. Your 20th supply should be made before an overlord, and that should be a drone. So what I mean is you'll saturate a middle line 16 out of 16. You'll saturate your gas 3 out of 3, and then you will make one more drone to 20 supply. And then that drone you make for 20 supply will rally it. You just rally that drone to your third base. Like you could rally it to behind the mineral line, literally. Just to hide it in case the Reaper checks there first, so it has a very low chance of being caught. Because a lot of Reapers just check if the drone's going to build a base or if the base is already there, and then they just move on to go kill drones at your natural or your main. And then you just would build the third base, and this is how the way it would go is you would build the third base before you start Zergling speed, if he has a natural already. You could build the third base after Zergling speed if he does not have a natural started. If you want to react to it really technically, if you don't want to react at all and you just want to have something that's super solid, it's always going to be solid and it's just going to be safe and well rounded. You could always start your third base after you start Zergling speed, and that's also still just fine.
But you're saying before Zergling speed, do it with the 20th drone? Is that what you said?
Yep. But like so, this is how it would go. Okay, I don't want you to build it at 20 supply. I want you to run it to your third base, and the reason why this is important is because look at the map right now with the Reaper coming out. This Reaper is going to now cut your drone off if you wait until you can afford it to send it out. Like he's going to be in front of your natural, and if he wants to be a total dickhead, he could literally make you waste time to take your third base all the way till the point until Zergling speed is done to then shove the Reaper away. Like if he never committed the Reaper forward and he always just waited for a drone, you would just be like, oh my fucking god, I can't ever like take a third. This sucks. So getting that drone out to your third really early allows you to take your third while he pokes your natural.
Okay.
So that's why it's important to have it there. Another thing too is as soon as you get Zergling speed, even honestly when you're like as soon as you realize, okay, we're gonna back up with the vision really fast here. I want to look at your overlord. I just want to see how it scouts. And I want to really quickly, I'm going to back it up. I want to see if your overlord ever stops. That's a big thing too. So you send it out at 3 seconds, and now we're going to watch this bad boy on ×8. And does he ever stop?
No. I don't think so.
Okay. And then I want to see how fast you scout his natural. Okay, he never stops. I'm glad he does not stop. And now you see a natural. Now, I will say, I guess this map does have like a longer overlord pathing than other maps, because a lot of maps you will actually see that natural before your speed is done. But there is physically no way on this map that was going to happen with the way you sent your overlord out and the way you took your gas, which is, I think the way you sent your overlord and the way you took your gas initially was fine. There's no problem there. But on maps where you can find out, you can confirm they have a natural before your gas is at 100, you could literally, even if you're at like 74 or something, you could rip your drones off of gas, 2 of them off of gas, and then just let the one drone finish it off, because there is no rush for Zergling speed anymore. You're still going to get it early enough to deal with Hellions, but there's no like supreme rush. But the point I'm trying to make here is as soon as you confirm he has a natural, you're not getting all in, and the only reason why you have to rush Zergling speed super fast is for all ins. Like a Reaper all in or something.
Okay. I think the idea I was trying to go here was getting defensive roaches out, because the build I've been doing for a while is your 2018 Bronze GM series.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been getting out defensive roaches, and I've been using those roaches early game as aggressive. That's usually how I've been winning, but after that point is when I don't win.
The thing about the old BDGM style though is it's literally not even Zergling speed. It's just are you talking about Diamond Plus old style, or are you talking about my like literally like roach wall off into like just roaches?
I'm talking about the build where you get a Zergling speed, and you pop out 10 roaches. You get about 9 to 10 drones on your natural, and then you at about
and you do
3
a
minute
push.
and 5 second mark. Yeah.
Okay. I would recommend getting out of this habit nowadays.
I have it. I know.
Yeah. But because like I think aggression, I used to actually think aggression was probably better for players that just to like get comfortable with things, but I don't really think it is as much anymore. Anyways, the way I would actually talk about your build right now is, I mean, if you're gonna keep mining gas and you're gonna do a roach timing, that does make sense. That is why you're gonna keep mining gas. But so I'm not gonna argue with it if you're gonna do a timing. But if your plan is to go for a third base, I would highly recommend going for resaturating your gas once your natural's fully saturated, and then going into back into gas. So I'm going to ask you a question really fast before we really make this confusing, because it's going to get confusing if I don't ask this question. Do you want to play a more defensive reactionary style, or do you want to play a semi-aggressive style like that? Because it does still work, but...
Well, the reason that I started doing the old builds because I could never hold timing attacks in the past. So what I started doing was, okay, I'll just be aggressive too. So what happens is, I guess the main point that I'm trying to get is, I don't know when I do try to macro and I do scout like an army or something, or his army composition, I don't know like when I should stop droning to make units, or if I also overreact. So I usually lose a late game because I either overreact by making too many of one unit, or I just keep droning thinking I'm fine, but then I end up getting steamrolled.
Yeah. Well, we can definitely talk about that. If you want to focus on a reactionary style, we totally can. If you want to focus on a pressure style, we can also really refine that for you. Either style you think you prefer. I don't know which. Do you prefer reactionary?
I like being aggressive at the start, but then easily being able to transition into a macro game.
Okay, well we could focus on like a roach pressure then, like the old style like that you're going into. It's not like outdated, and it's not like, oh man, it's just so bad. The only reason why I'm not the biggest advocator of that nowadays, and you are diamond, so I think you're gonna be able to handle it better. But a lot of players, when they do aggression, they fuck their own build up like crazy. Like they just kind of like their own build falls apart as they try to mess their opponent's build up. It happens all the time. But if you get better and better and better at it, that will happen less often to you because you'll be more refined.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll talk about this as a... so your gas will be fine. We'll talk about a roach timing build then for you, which is again, it's totally fine. It's not like I'm trying to say it's a bad build. Alright, so your roach one should be going down roughly around... yeah, like right about now, I would say. Like around like 8 drones on your natural would be nice, because that's when you can roughly afford it. And then if you're going to do this timing, this is what I would recommend you do. This would be the best way to transition out of this. I would say rip 2 drones off your gas once you have 200 gas after your Zergling speed. So what's going to happen is, if you do this, is it allows you to have a mineral, just a fatter mineral income. You're going to have a little bit of less gas income at this point, but you have enough gas to make 8 roaches with right off the bat. And then you can add in roach number 9 or roach number 10 over time. As you like push out, like as your roaches are all started, you can start roach number 9. And as you're like halfway across the map, you could probably start roach number 10 if you wanted to add in a couple more roaches. Otherwise, I think 8 would be a solid fucking number to push with. It'd be fine. It's not an overcommitment is what I'm trying to say. And it's not really, it's not too little where it's going to do nothing. 8 roaches is fucking formidable at this point in the game. And then if you took 2 drones off your gas when you could make 8 roaches, what that would do for you, by giving you a lot of minerals, is it would allow you to flood Lings with it for a little bit, which you could then choose to continue to flood Lings if you're doing tons of damage to them, or you could choose to transition into drones. and you would then have more money freed up to then do something like take a third base.
What do you think about behind the push, starting layer in a third base?
I don't like that.
Is that
I do not like that.
No? Okay.
The reason why I do not like that is because if you start a third base and a layer and you're still fully mining gas, you're not going to have any fucking larva usage. It's too much gas being mined, because here's the thing. You're double dipping your mineral economy if you do that, because you're dipping your economy into less minerals and more gas, and then on top of that, you're having to then spend said gas by dipping more into your minerals for things like tech, which you can't even afford to really utilize yet. There would have to be trade-offs. Like if you were to go for a third and a layer, you would not spend your larva. If you were to spend your larva, you'd be able to go for a third and no layer and just have a bunch of gas in the bank because you couldn't afford it. If you were to go for a third, if you were to go for the other, like you can't basically do all three of those things at the same time. There would have to be one sacrifice. Either the layer, the third, or the larva is going to get sacrificed because you can't.
Okay.
It's just too much money.
That makes sense.
So I would definitely recommend ripping your drones off gas, doing your roach timing with your lings. This gives you options where if you do fuckloads of damage, you can just all in him then. You can just keep flooding until he's dead.
That's exactly what got me in this habit. I just started winning games and I just kept doing it, and then I got in the habit of doing it every game.
Yeah. So like for instance, here would be a good way to distinguish if you are or aren't doing damage. If you break down his wall, if you're killing his workers and he has no units to defend it other than maybe like a banshee, and that's it. You've killed all of his Hellions, you've killed all of his Marines, whatever, a tank, whatever's on the ground, you've killed it. And you're just constantly like, you're losing your units to air units, and you're just killing SCVs, killing SCVs, killing SCVs. That's a great time to be like, you know what, let's keep flooding lings. And until he literally has 0 workers, and then I'll make drones. Because I'm fucking destroying him right now. And maybe I'll even kill more depots while I'm there. Maybe I will make a command center lift or whatever. You'll just do tons of damage. That's a great time to make lings. A great time to make drones would be like you get to his base and you deal some damage to him. Let's say you bust open his natural and you make him lift off his command center, and he loses like 3 depots down there, and he loses like 8 SCVs. And then you get to the main base and you don't quite break the wall, and most of your roaches have died now to whatever he has on the high ground. Like he's actually stabilizing on the high ground. That is not a good time to keep flooding him. That is now like maybe stop attacking him with what you currently have on the map still. Just contain him and go back to making drones and saturate like, you know, another like 20 drones or so or 30 drones, and then resume whatever you're going to do. Like try to get a scout off and see what he's going into. Is he going into banshees? Is he going into bio drops? Is he going into a tank? Whatever you think you need. Like, yeah. So you make more queens as a response. You make maybe a bane nest and go Ling Bane. Whatever you think is going to be a good response there. But if you're not busting him, obviously don't flood him anymore because you're going to just throw the game away.
Yeah, usually versus Terran is actually the only race I have a problem with this build going against is they always have a siege tank on the upper ground, so I usually try to put my roaches back then and then back.
Yeah, that's fine. If you do damage and then you back off and you don't overcommit to just making lings for the next 3 minutes, that's totally fine because you could fuck him over a little bit. You cripple him more than you cripple yourself because you can bounce back into economy really fast on 3 bases with queens injecting. Whereas if one of his command centers is literally flying in the air, and he also lost SCVs, it's really hard to replace that. So it could turn into a situation where you have like 30 drones and he has 42 SCVs when you do your timing attack, and then suddenly now he only has like 16 SCVs or like 18 SCVs after your timing, and now you're on like 50 drones. That would be a great thing to do for you.
Okay.
So your third base, if you're going to do a timing like this, your third is too early. Because now look at your larva. You have 10 larvae sitting here, and now you have to wait on your larva for roaches. So if you want to do a timing, 2 base timing, and then take your third during the timing. If you want to do a 3 base opener, the roach timing is not necessary. So again, we're talking about the roach timing though, so delay your third longer than it is now. Don't even do the 20 drone thing I said anymore. You're going to be 2 basing it for a timing. And then do you see this too? Like you make a roach warren and you start a layer at the same time. Like this is fucking your roaches harder again here because it's another cost.
Okay. I got you, alright.
So yeah, your build is just like all over the place right now.
I know the feeling. That's normally how I feel in the late game, anyways. Because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I think it's the right choice. I just go with it.
Yeah. Well, you gotta just think about it like this. Always think about StarCraft in this kind of a sense, where late game it doesn't apply as much. Late game just kind of applies to like understanding how to control your side of the map more or less and be safe about things. But early game, the choices you make should be definitive. Like, you should go down a path. Like, do I want to be safe? Okay, well, I'm going to be safe for the next 6 minutes. Do I want to be aggressive? Okay, I'm going to prioritize whatever I can to make the most of my aggression. Am I going to be really, really, really greedy? You know, things like this. So like, if you're going to be aggressive, you want to prioritize your timing to be hitting him as fast as it can and doing things like taking your third and your layer and then setting up for roach timing. All that's doing is going, you know what, it's saying I'm going to be aggressive and I'm going to do a timing, but I'm going to do it like 50 seconds late. So your timing is going to feel way shittier than it has to be.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then you're making drones right now too. So this, I would say, is not even a timing anymore. This is just defensive roaches.
Well, for this game, I made this to show you my macro play.
Yeah, okay.
I usually play aggressive, but this game I didn't go aggressive.
So just know this too. With the build we're talking about, you always need to go aggressive. Okay, like doing this setup, it makes absolutely no sense to be defensive. Just to throw this out there in a way where it's not going to take us like a 10-minute tangent here. We can definitely go into this more if you'd like. But just to throw it out really fast, if you want to be defensive, priority is your third, priority is your minerals, and then you retake your gas after zergling speed at fully saturated natural, and that's when you would take your roach horn to be defensive with it.
Okay. I think the reason I'm aggressive, I like being aggressive, is because I don't feel comfortable with the early game to mid game transition, because usually I make units when if he's pushing out or anything like that, but I think I overcommit, or I don't know when to stop droning or when to make more units.
Yeah.
I either underestimate or overestimate.
Well, that's why your timings have to be precise. Because if you're going to do a timing, it needs to be assertive and it needs to go quickly. Because if you're sitting there stockpiling and stockpiling and stockpiling and stockpiling, and then you have put yourself into an all-in, and then if you start making drones behind it, it makes literally no sense. Like, if you're all in, you need to just kind of commit to it. So the faster and more assertive you are, the faster you can realize if you should bounce back into drones or not, and it's not a question anymore. So if you do a timing and you're like, holy fuck, I broke him really hard, you can make units and you could break him even harder, and you could ultimately win the game right there. However, if you do a timing and then you aren't breaking him, you can make the choice now to go, you know what, how about I just pull back with what I have, and I can make the choice logically to go, okay, he's playing really fucking safe as my opponent. Like, he's ultra safe, he's not greedy at all, which is why he's doing so well at defending this. So his build is slowed down as well because of how safe he's playing. He prioritized tech, he prioritized production over command centers. So he's definitely not dying right now, but now I can totally back off and make drones and still have a good lead here, because the only reason why he's not dying is because he's being so fucking safe. Does that make sense? Like, the only way it's not like it's just a question mark and a randomness. If you do or don't break a Terran with this kind of a timing, if the Terran's build is like, you know what, 3 command centers really fast, let's get it done. Let's fucking make those mules. That's when you're like, holy shit, I just broke him so fucking hard. Like, he just dies because all of his tech is delayed and all of his production is delayed because he's so greedy. But the Terrans who are like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go 1-1-1 and then go 3 more racks behind it off of only 2 bases, and then I'll take my third. Then suddenly you try to do a timing on him and break him, and you're like, holy shit, he's got a lot of stuff. Like, I am not breaking him right now. My roaches are just bleeding out on the front of his door. And that's when you're like, okay, well, if I'm 3 fully saturated bases, this Terran is going to be doing a timing where he's going to be starting his 3rd base by the time I'm fully saturated on 3 bases. So he's definitely prioritized into production of army rather than production of workers for like the mid game here, which is why those kinds of Terrans are the ones you won't break. And if you just transition back into economy and back off after you do a little bit of damage to them, then you're fine. Like, you can still bounce back into a commanding position.
Okay, that makes sense.
And obviously micro has a little bit to do with it as well, but it's mostly about build order setup.
Like right now, in this point in the game, do you think it would be safe for me to take a 4th base
Yeah.
right now?
Yes.
Okay.
I think your build is definitely not optimal though. I'm gonna just throw that out there. The reason why I would say this is because you're playing defensive, right? This is a defensive roach opener with lings, which you can totally do. That is not it's not like it's not a thing. But you could at 6 minutes, a full minute ago, you could have had 10 more drones than you do a full minute later. So you could have had like 65, 66 drones at 6 minutes with a defensive Ling Roach opener. And you're at 55 at 7 minutes. So your build is super inefficient. Your tech is way too fast. Like you teched super hard, and you know, and then you made roaches and you kept mining gas the whole time. You put us like you stifled your mineral income a lot throughout this game, and then you rushed a spire. And we'll just for fun, really quick here, let's look at your spire the second it finishes, just so we get the exact number here. It finishes at 6:55, and let's see how long it takes to actually utilize mutas, which is like it seems like that's what the priority is here.
My overlord scouted a fusion core.
Okay, and that's why you reacted with the spire.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I expected a BC eventually.
I would say. So a spire is not the worst. The spire is fine. Okay, like to react the way you just said that. I think logically you're on the right track. That's totally fine. I think the speed of which you took it is like a muta rush. It's like you're sacrificing your economy to go for quick spire, and it shows because like I was saying before, if we look at just simple numbers here, you could have been 66 drones at 6 minutes and you're at 55 drones at 7 minutes, which is so fucking delayed. Like your build is super far behind right now. It's more than a minute behind. Your build's like 2 minutes behind or like 90 seconds behind, where it could be.
Okay.
And again, this is assuming you could still have Roach Ling defensively when you need it. And then on top of that, if you do scout a BC, always feel like, again, Aspire is a fine reaction to a BC opener, but also for a really, if someone rushes BCs, ideally, generally speaking, what your reaction initially should be before the Spire is Queens. Spore Queen. And you have a Spore Mineral line, which I like a lot, and you have 4 Queens, which is not enough. You should definitely right now have like 8 Queens or something. Like a lot more. And again, that would come from having more of a mineral priority. You could afford it properly.
Is that just versus Terran, or do you...
It's versus Terran. No, that's versus Terran.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, versus Protoss and versus Zerg. Queens are only really appropriate versus Zerg in heavy numbers if you're getting Ling Bane all in repeatedly and you're trying to make drones and make defensive, like little bits of defensive Ling Bane. It makes sense there to make a lot of Queens. And against Protoss, it only really makes sense to make extra Queens if your opponent's opening up with like Void Rays, literally. If they're opening up, or like Oracles. Like mass fucking, like double Stargate, Void Ray Oracle, anything like that. Phoenix, I would not even recommend going mass Queens against Phoenix. I would say just make Spores. But yeah, like generally speaking, you're not really gonna. You could literally just ignore what I said about Protoss and Zerg, and that'd be fine. You don't; those aren't like required. But against Terran, it kind of is. You kind of just want to do a Queen priority because the thing about the reason why it's so good is because Creep and ZvT is the most important matchup for Creep. It is by far the most important against Terran. It's still really good against Protoss, and it's fine against Zerg because it gives you vision, but against Terran, it is so fucking important because so many engagements are decided based off of how well the engagement goes in ZvT because Terran is mostly ranged and it does a fuckload of DPS. So if you can't get in quick enough, you're going to likely lose fights, which is why it's always important to have Creep where you fight against Terran.
Okay. That's one thing I knew I needed to work on my Creep spread.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that my builds right now are more important to get that fixed.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you right now. In my opinion, you just lost the game here as well. Like we'll still go through this a little bit faster now, but here's why I think you just lost. Your build was already like 90 seconds behind from where it could have been, or so. It's not exactly 90, but it's like literally somewhere between 90 and 2 minutes, because of how your drone count was at that 7-minute mark. And then now you just got your whole third mineral line just got roasted by Hellions while BC was being annoying in your natural. This is something that you definitely need to kind of like anticipate or expect. So one of the things I recommend you do is just so I know you can see my pings. Can you see my ping on the map right now really quick before I say this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if your overlords are spread like here, here, and here. Just like in the front of your base, basically. In front of your creep. That is kind of required against Terran if you're going to do a defensive opener. So Overlord number 1 goes across the map. Overlord number 2 kind of chills at your natural for a little bit, so just to make sure you're not getting all in and proxied, and then it goes across the map. Overlords 3, 4, 5, they sit in front of where your creep is going to go, so you can cover it with your queens defensively early and your lings early, so that you can actually spread your creep properly and you don't ever get caught out of, like, you know, where it's like, oh fuck, Hellions just drove into my natural. I didn't know he was doing that. Your overlords they keep giving you reads, like it's like artificial creep spread, because you can't kill your overlords when he opens up Hellions like this, and then most Terrans do this, and then so it allows you to always have good positioning, and then once your creep actually gets to the point of where the overlords are, and right now you only have one of the 3 overlords I would say that you need, which is the one you have in the middle of the map right now, which is like right there. That's a good overlord placement. If you had like a couple more just to catch the other ramps, that would be huge. The entrances to your base is basically what you're looking for here. And then once your creep touches the overlord, you could then move the overlord, not forward again, but just move it to like the edge of the map, like up here or over there, or down there, or whatever. It doesn't matter anymore because your creep would be far enough out in front of your base. We're talking like at least like a full screen length in front of your base, so it would give you enough warning to react. And then always, when a BC hits your base, if it teleports in or whatever, always just autopilot, send your queens at it, be like, queens, go kill that, and then look at the mini map and be like, do I need to fucking, like, keep an eye on the minimap to be like, do I need to send my roaches to my third base or to my natural or whatever base he might hit? And if your creep or your overlord spread catches that, then you have enough time to react. Because, like, look at how much time you had to react here to this this Hellion attack that happened. So, like, right now, his BC is coming to your base. You see it. Your queens should be the ones that are going to go deal with this in a second. And now I'm watching your vision, by the way. And now you see Hellions on the minimap. Terrans love to do multi-prong. This is just what happens. Terrans always fucking multi-prong. I'm sure you know this by now. Like, most Zergs have realized this. Are like, yep, I get dropped over here and dropped over there or whatever. BCs and Hellions at the same time. Terrans always do this. So, yep. If you're watching the minimap, your roaches and lings right now, they're correct. Because they're going to guard the entrance he's going towards, which is your natural. That's where it looks like he's headed right now. He stops, and you could actually engage him right now if you were paying attention to this, because he's on creep pretty deep. He pokes your natural, and he's like, oh, you know what? Nah, I'm going to back up. And then he backs up, and that's fine. But now your roaches kind of chill, and they stop. You can still see where his Hellions are going. And they're definitely a priority right now. They are huge here. These Hellions are going to wipe out a middle line way faster than a BC would. But the BC is definitely a lot more annoying because it can actually kill more of your power units. Like, the BC is more formidable than these Hellions, but these Hellions are scary as fuck to your drones. What's up?
I was agreeing with you.
Okay. So, yeah, your queens again. Like, the queen BC engagement is more autopilot-y. It's not as scary. Like, you can micro it, but, like, to transfuse and stuff like that. But as long as you just have your queens going toward the BC, that's really all that matters right now. What really matters right now is just making sure the Hellions are zoned out. And then once they are, then you can also then autopilot your roaches and auto attack it and not give a shit. Like, you don't have to micro one roach in and out of the fight against the Hellions. That's never going to happen. You're going to easily crush them if you fight them. It's just about zoning him so he can't kill your drones. So that should be the priority right now, is always watching the minimap to go, where are you going to, and what are you going to do with your army? Are you going to try and kill my workers or whatever? And so you can see, like, right now he's driving into your third, and there's 0 reaction because you're most likely dealing with the BC right now, and your third base just gets fucking obliterated here. And that right there, it's recoverable if your build is not, if that's the first thing that deviates your build. If that is what just fucked your build up, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's recoverable. But the fact that you're so far behind already from just the way your build was set up, and then that happened, your build is like now probably like 3 minutes behind, or 3.5, almost 4 minutes behind maybe. It's super far behind now.
You're talking about my build of like the first 3 to 4 minutes of the game, right?
Yes, I'm talking, like, when I say your build's behind, I'm talking about what it could be at right now, like if you played efficiently. So now, like, we're talking 8 minutes. Your build you could be at 8 minutes, 80 drones. You could be at probably like 100 and if you're going for Roach Ling opener, you could be like at 130 supply already. Like 120, 130 supply, 80 drones, and have like 8 queens. And you could be going into, you could just be cranking Roaches if you wanted to, or you know, going into Aspire like you have, and now going into like Roach Corruptor.
And then when I saw that BC, I made 9 corruptors. Was that too many corruptors?
So it depends what you see on his base, and I would say because you've seen that he has a fuckload of tech labs with factories, going for a corruptor emphasis right now is probably not the best idea. If this was double BC, I would say I agree with you, but it's a single BC, and a single BC can easily be zoned out by queens and spores. It's just the double BC part that makes it way harder to deal with, because it's a lot scarier, because it can actually burst queens down a lot faster. But the thing is if you're already like behind as you are, okay, from your build, just because I don't think your build is the most efficient, and then your drones die, and then you make corruptors, and your opponent is going for a battle mech focus, it looks like, or he's actually going tank Hellion, which is what we see in the units tab. But it looks like it could be Battle Mech. This could be Mass Cyclone. It could be Mass Hellion. If it was, and the fact that you just made a bunch of Corruptors, you would die. Again, it's not the most. I'll say just so I don't confuse you, I want to make sure this is very clear. You would die if this was very, very high level, because he would punish you for that fucking really hard. However, if you just zoned out the Hellions, and your build was a little more efficient, and you didn't lose a bunch of drones, you could have actually still made corruptors like you just did, and I wouldn't give a shit, because you would have enough money to even to make that choice to make those corruptors to then deal with future BCs, which would be fine, and you would then be able to still make Roaches as you need them to deal with his ground mech army. Like you could make the corruptors and be fine, as long as your build doesn't get far behind. But the fact that your build is so far behind, and then you also make the corruptor, which is not going to be ideal against his composition, you're gonna die, is what I'm trying to say.
Makes sense. I agree. I see it.
Just know the priority is definitely guarding your drones, always. And that requires making sure you always pay attention to the multi-prong of Hellion.
When playing defensive, do you recommend like every game from your series to put like a spore and 2 spines each bit?
Once you get to a high supply. If you were already at 80 drones, I'd be like, yeah, go for it. But if you're at 40 drones and you do it, I'd be like, no. You need to make drones, and you need to utilize your Roaches better.
All right.
Because it's really expensive to do that. It'd be like, the thing about making static D, spores are necessary because spores are fucking super huge here. I think the spores you made were fine against the BC. That's fine. But if you make spines at every base, and you have Roaches, if you're like, well, I got to deal with, if you're like, I got to deal with battle cruisers and all I have is queens, the spore is actually needed there, because the spore tanks the BC so well, and it actually hits the BC way harder than queens do. And dealing with a BC is already annoying as it is, so the spore is actually very useful there. But if we're talking about dealing with Hellions and you have Roaches, it's like you already have Roaches, so it's already overkill as it is. Roaches just beat the fucking shit out of Hellions. And then if you make spines on top of that, it's just promoting laziness. Like it's like supreme overkill then. It's like, yeah, I got a flamethrower to kill a spider. Now I'm just gonna throw a grenade at it, because you know what, fuck that. like you don't need to do that. It's just like too much, you know what I mean? So the spines are okay later, when you have enough money to afford it, because you're actually also at that point gonna probably be moving out on the map and attacking him, and the more bases you have, the more counterattack potential he has to do like damage to your economies. So it makes sense then to make static D when you're more exposed across more of the map. That's why then it would be okay. But for now, it definitely is not.
Now I know my build is basically shit at this point, but further into this round, I want you to tell me if I made the correct reaction to a unit he builds.
Sure. Right now, definitely what your priority should be is cranking drones out like crazy. And you're right now. I would say you've kind of had there's a lot of time going by, and you're prioritizing your tech. You're not making any overlords. You're not making any drones.
Yeah, when I looked at that base, I just started making drones at the third base, and I think very shortly, I went over there to look at the saturation. I'm like, oh, there's no fucking drones there. I
Yeah.
didn't realize all the drones are dead.
Exactly. That's fine. I honestly, I kind of anticipate. All right, I kind of thought that was the case, which is why, because your roaches didn't even try to move, which is why I was saying that definitely always pay attention to multi-prong every time. That's huge, and that's why we were talking about the scouting as well, because it gives you more time to actually see the Hellions before they get to your base. That is always going to screw you against Terran. That's a problem that's never going to go away. You have to just become used to being able to defend multi-prong.
Or just switch to Terran.
No, don't switch to Terran. Don't listen to chat. Chat says dumb things all the time. All right, and then so you're still not making drones though. So you're playing this like all in game now. You're droning.
I made a I think because I scouted back up a few seconds. I think I started freaking out because he's had like 6 Thors as natural, so I immediately plopped down a Hydralisk Den and then right after a Lurker Den.
I would say
right?
going Thors against or going Lurkers against Thors is okay, but it's not good if they have tanks mixed in.
Okay.
I would say this though. This is huge. No matter what is gonna happen, even if you lose games, I want you to do this, okay? And then I want you to, through these losses and experience of it happening, you'll become more of a adept player. You'll become more experienced and you'll become better. But no matter what, for now, every time you get fucked in the drone department, remake it, and that's your priority. Like, if you have an existing army, which you did, you had like 10 roaches or whatever, and he had BC Hellion, and then he ran away with the Hellions. You didn't even kill them, but he did lose his BC. I'm pretty sure you killed the BC. Just remake the drones. Like that should be your priority. Do not wait on tech. Do not wait on making more army, like making a bunch of Roach Hydra like this. Because all that I'm seeing right now, whenever I watch people do this kind of stuff, all I'm seeing is you are putting yourself into an all-in, and then if you sit here passively and you don't do anything, because you kind of have to, because what's going to happen if you walk across the map with these units and you attack them? They're going to die. Like, because you're making them at such a slow pace because your economy sucks. So, and you're also then giving him the advantage of SimCity defense, where he can fight behind depots and with bunkers and PFs or whatever. It's giving your odds of winning the game just go down to like almost 0% when you put yourself in situations where you don't remake drones and you just crank units out because you're paranoid. I would rather you just make drones because, again, the Hellion attack happened to you at like 7 or 8 minutes and you lost all your drones then, like almost 3 to 4 minutes ago. And if you just remade drones then, by now you could be back up to like 80 again already. Easily, guaranteed. You could have been back to 80 like at 10 minutes. And then you could have then started making units, and you could be at this same army you're at, army size that you're at right now, with 80 drones instead of 47.
Against Terran, at what point on the time clock should I start worrying about a push? Because
it changes.
My biggest fear.
Go ahead.
I was going to say my biggest fear is when I expand to a third base and start joining it, I'm just so fucking like I get PTSD from it. I think like, oh, there's going to be like 20 Marines walking through or some shit like that. So I just make units first usually. Then I just stick with normally that goes into the middle game and I start losing focus and shit.
Yeah, it changes based on what build they're doing. It's not always going to be the same timing. So like if they have like a Hellion BC opener, that'll probably hit you roughly around 6 minutes. If they have like 2-1-1 bio, that'll be 5 minutes. If they have like a tank timing, if it's a heavy production, no third base, that'll probably be around 6 minutes. If it's a third base and then it's going to be a tank timing, it's going to probably be around 7 minutes. Like there's a lot of different timings that can hit you with Terran, but the only thing you need to worry about is you can make your initial defense, like your units, which is not going to be like 80 supply of units or like 60 supply units. We're talking about like 20 to 30 supply max of units. And this is including roaches and lings. And then...
Before or after?
What? Before or after the third?
Before or after? Like, are you saying make those
what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do that's going to make it a lot less confusing. I'm going to make you a build that you can copy. Like you'll see an example of it. So it's not just going to be me telling you. I'm just gonna make you the build, so you'll see, like, you'll get a visual reference of it, which will answer a lot of your questions for that. But the biggest overall point I'm trying to make here is you're falling into the trap that a lot of Zergs fall into, which is you are paranoid to drone because you think you're gonna die repeatedly, so you don't drone, and you make the game 10 times harder for yourself every second after that.
Exactly. You just hit you hit the nail.
Yeah, it's all, dude. You're not the only person. Everybody fucking does this. So you just have to realize that if you do shit fast, if your build is actually efficient and it goes fast, and I don't have to say something like your build's already 90 seconds behind and nothing's happened yet. You know, if you do the build that's super efficient, you're going to be like, okay, well, every time I get attacked, I already have my saturation that I need, and then I make units. I'm already in the unit making phase, and then he suddenly attacks me, and then when he's attacking me, I just keep making units until his attack is dead. And then if I want to, I can just go counter all in him, or I can finish droning, because now I have control, and go to 80 or whatever that I want to go to. That's how your games will start going, if you have efficient builds. Guaranteed. Because all you have to know, does he have a natural? That's it. Does he have a 2-base? And if he does have a natural, like obviously getting his tech read, like knowing he has BCs or whatever, is always obviously going to be a good read to have, but it's not going to change your droning really. Like your droning is always going to happen during harassment. You're still going to make drones during harassment because that is what it's going to be if it's a natural. It's going to be harassment. I think a lot of Zergs they get paranoid to the point to where they think that when the Terran has a natural command center, and then whatever they're opening with, they think the Terran's intent with their attacks is always to kill. Where it's like, oh, Terran's attacking me, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna fucking die. Okay, I need to make units now. But it's already impossible for the Terran to have the intent to kill you within the first 6 minutes if they expanded. Within the first 6 minutes. Once it gets to 6 minutes beyond, like 6:30, whatever, if he prioritizes like 5 fucking barracks and like a factory and a starport or something like that, then yes, he could kill you at that point. But you should be done droning by 6 minutes already. And if you're not, your build is inefficient.
I don't think I've ever hit like 60, 70 drones by 6 minutes before. So,
yeah, well, one of the big reasons why you're not doing that is because you're doing a build that has gas as well. Like it never stops wanting gas. That is so massive. I can't begin to describe how big that is for it slowing your economy down. Because again, it double dips your economy where it prevents you from mining and like more minerals, and it also gives you more gas that you then have to spend with your existing minerals. So it double negatives your mineral income. But again, like, so just know this too. 6 minutes applies more to the super passive defensive mode that we're talking about, which is what you went for here, which is why that we're talking about it so much. If we're going to do the build that we talked about in the beginning, where we do a little bit of aggression, 6 minutes no longer is super applicative there because you're doing aggression instead. You're making more units than you would have otherwise made, but you're slowing him down at the same time. So it's not like he doesn't get slowed down. Your opponent also gets slowed down as a result of this. So maybe more like 7 to 7.5 minutes is going to be our quota then.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, that also changes based on if you keep flooding Lings or not. So this is why I said it gets a little more confusing if you do aggression, because it's based on how well it goes. Alright, we're going to speed it up a bit more. We're going to probably X4 this bad boy until the game's over, so I can make it the build.
Yeah, that's fine. At the end, you'll witness my terrible engagement.
So really quickly, I'm going to actually pause one more time, just really quickly ask you something.
Yeah.
And that is, so far, I know we're talking a bit about both, because we're talking about your preferences, which is aggression, and then we're talking about the current game, which is passive play. But is it making sense though, or do you have any questions that you, like? If you feel like anything doesn't make sense, by all means say something, and I will clarify.
It makes sense because definitely with the early gas. I mean, I'm mining too much gas, not really using it. Then my drones, like I'm never really hitting the drone saturation.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's very true, yeah. Like the whole game is already thrown off for you. All right, and then he pushes you. So he's doing a multi-prong again, where he shoves your main, or he shoves your main with BCs with teleport, and then he shoves your third with his actual army. And this army has mostly tank with some Hellbat support and some Thor support. Your army right now, I would say, is very scary to be engaging his because the tanks are so massive here. These tanks are gonna chew through you like crazy. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing a base race, but I was too far away, so I went ahead and engaged.
Sure. I just think, yeah, well, like a big problem for you too is your army is mostly roaches, and the fact that you're still on mostly roaches at almost 14 minutes is scary for you because roaches suck balls at this stage. Like, they're so bad. You definitely want to be. Roaches are an early game setup unit, but you definitely kind of want to be getting off of roaches if your plan is not to prevent Terran from maxing. Roaches only ever make sense to max on repeatedly if you're keeping the Terran at like 130 supply or less.
Okay.
Is that like right there? Like the tanks just demolished your army. And this is what will happen.
Yeah.
This is what will happen if you're still on roaches when your opponent is maxed on something like Thor tank Hellbat. And the crazy thing too is his Thors are even out of position. They're not even guarding the tanks. His Thors are actually shooting the shit out of your Corruptors, which is a waste. Like, that is, it's irrelevant for him to shoot the Corruptors right now. And even though his army is so disorganized and scattered like this, he is still beating the shit out of your army because tanks are just so good in high number against roaches. Yeah. As brutal. So the biggest thing for you is definitely that the late game was made harder from the early game for sure. So let's bump out of that game really quick, and I'll make you an example build really fast. I'll go ahead and remake the party just to get it really quickly. Wait, I just like lost you. What the hell? Okay, I got you again. Okay, and then I will make a game. And then I'm going to give you an example of the aggressive version.
Cool.
Is that what you prefer? Or do you want me to do macro version? Because before we said aggressive.
I like aggressive, but I mean, I like. The only reason I don't do macros because I just feel naked when I do it.
Okay.
I just don't know what to talk about.
It's all good. No worries. We can always, you can always feel free to ask questions and stuff like that. You can always download replays from replay packs that I post or previous ones that I've made. I will keep posting replay packs and stuff like that on my Discord, just in general. So you always have access to like new stuff as well. But yeah, for now, I would say just get good at this build then, and try to really master it. And then it still turns into macro. It's just an opening of aggression, is all it is.
Yeah, that's good. That's cool. That's cool.
All right, dude. And if you have any questions as well, like right now, again, feel free to ask if there's anything on your mind about the build.
Cool. Yeah, I'm watching.
All right, and then I'll just to keep things universal for you, I'll do a 16 hatch because that's what you prefer, which is totally fine. It's not like a bad thing, but just make sure you.
The only reason I really like 16 hatch is because it times up so perfectly with the spawning pool and the clip.
Yeah, that's fine. I do think 17 hatch against Terran is a little bit better because it gives you a little bit more money. But again, it's not like holy fuck that's changing everything for you. It changes like all of maybe like 3 seconds of greed or like 4 seconds. Like your build is like 3 to 5 seconds faster based off of a little bit more greed. Like towards like the 6-minute mark is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's yeah.
Sorry, I feel naked when I macro because I always macro without my pants on.
It's okay. I understand, dude.
I'm looking at chat. Sorry.
It's a ripple carry thing. All right, and then again with this build now, don't bother doing the 20 drone thing like we talked about. Just make an overlord because you're not going to be going for a super fast third. And then now we're going to send our natural overlord out to his base to the other side, just so we can get a follow-up scout if we ever want to. And then you can make 4 lings and 2 queens. And we're gonna leave drones on gas beyond 100. Then we're gonna go all the way to 300 for the roaches. And then after we make the roaches themselves, then we're gonna take a third base. And then let's just pretend you saw a natural, okay? Like what you normally would see. Because if you don't see a natural and you still do aggression, it's a little bit more risky then. I'm just going to throw that out there. If your opponent actually is one-basing you and you're going to go for aggression like this, like you might have an army to defend his push, but what if he techs really fast to like Banshees and then he starts farming your fucking roaches and lings really early? Like that's why it could be considered a little risky. All right, and then we're making overlords 3, 4, 5 to go out in front of our base so we can see a net of vision in front of my base. And we're going to make the roach one around 8 supply on my mineral, or 8 drones, which it's about to be because I have another drone in production now, so we'll just throw it down now because I have the money. And then we'll stop droning about, honestly, like right about now, I would say. Like right around like maybe 10 drones are natural, because now that you started the roach one, you want to make overlords now. You want to make like maybe like an extra 3 more overlords again. And just you can now gap out these next overlords that you made. After your initial 3 in front of your base, you can make the next round of 2 or 3 to go along the sides of the map. Because now what you want to do is you want to have a supply cushion and save money for your timing. And then once you're at 200 gas, rip off 2 drones off of your gas to go mine minerals. And now you can actually make 8 roaches all at once as soon as the warren's done. This is why we're prioritizing the timing. You see what I mean with efficiency here? Like you're making your timing as crisp as it can be. And then now we're going to be going with, we're just going to literally flood lings, nothing but lings, until we get to his base. And the second the roaches spawn, that's what's going to move out. And then we can follow the roaches. So roaches go, and we go with roaches. And then now you can see my money's getting a little higher, and I can't spend all of it anymore. So we're going to take a drone, and we're going to go to my third base, and we're actually going to take a third. And we're still making lings. For the time being, because we're not fully, we don't know if we're going to crush him or not, and we're trying to really commit to this timing as powerful as it can possibly be. And then we can make another overlord because we're going to block soon, but also keep making lings. And then at this point, if we were to break him and you were like to go, okay, yeah, no, we're crushing his ass, you can flood lings and try to win the game. If you go, you know what, I don't think I'm going to quite kill him, but I definitely did some damage that I'm okay with. Right now is when you go, okay, do I want to make drones or do I want to make lings? You have to make the choice now. Like if you're overwhelming him, just make lings and just keep killing him. If you're not overwhelming him, but you've already done a little bit of damage, go back to droning. So for this example, I'll go back, just because I know he's dead already. But for this example, I would go back to droning. Okay, let's just pretend that the game continues, just so you can get more example of the build. I'm gonna go back to droning, and at this point now is when I would go back into saturating my gas fully in my main. I would not yet take more gases. Instead, now I will start making more queens. I can use my existing creep spread queen to become an injector for my third base. And I can now just keep making, I can fully saturate like 3 bases. And when my, once I have enough money to where like I can't actually spend all my larvae, or I'm already spending all my larvae and I still can't spend all my money like now, and you make your first round of queens. After like your next queen starts in your main, so like your second queen that pops out of the main basically, now you can make your lair essentially. And then now you could now scout as well and be like, okay, well, what do I see out of my opponent that looks like I need to counter it? Do I need to make something like spores for BCs? Do I need to make whatever the fuck, anything that you need to make? And then once you have a good drone count, look at the timer, 618, and even though we did a timing with lots of lings, I'm at 65 drones at 618. Still.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I haven't been able to do that. Okay.
And then you could be like, all right, I'll take a 4th base, and so on and so on. And then from here, once you have a great drone count, Once you're like at 66, 68, whatever, you could be like,
ViBE, I completed that review of penis implants.
sorry, this guy's
As
donating.
I mentioned before, most of them are scams. Some may work, like
So,
surgery.
in theory, if I did enough
Sadly,
damage,
most
I
of
shouldn't
them
worry about
require
any
at
kind of
least
attack
1
right
inch
now.
of erect penis.
So,
to
I'm
work
gonna
with.
you have to repeat
I'm
what you
sorry,
said.
buddy.
There's a
Modern
penis
tech can only
donation
do
going
so
on right now.
much.
He's ruining your lesson. Yo, Gecko, thank you very much for the $100 dono. I know you know I'm making a YouTube video right now. I appreciate the dono though very much. Thank you very much, man. And we'll talk about penises later. I don't know what you just said, but much love. But what did you say, Drones?
I was saying, in theory, if I did enough damage, at this point I shouldn't have to worry about any kind of attack.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like you're gonna cripple him. So you completely have enough time to get your drone count to the 3 base saturation, and based from that and what you want to make as your unit, you could be like, okay, well, off of 3 bases, I'm gonna go mass roaches. Off of 3 bases, I'm gonna go for a lot of hydras now. Off 3 bases, I'm gonna go for Ling Bane. Off 3 bases, and my existing army, I'm gonna make a saturated 4th base and go into then whatever I want to make. Like you have so many, like anything goes here. You can make anything you want. But 3 bases is like the key to now go, I have to get there at least, and then I can make whatever I want. Because if you cripple your opponent and you don't kill him, and then you fall back and drone like I just did, and you're at a nice drone count, like 6 to 18, 620, whatever. If you can do that, if you get there at 640 or whatever, obviously you can work on it some more and make it faster. And you got to think about too, the more lings you make, the more lings you flood with it, the later your drone count will be. So if you make the choice consciously to go, okay, keep flooding lings longer and longer and longer, every time you flood another wave of lings off of an inject, that's like another 30 seconds that gets delayed from your drone saturation getting to where it needs to be. But if you can justify it because you're fucking him up as well, then that's okay. But if you're making lings and then you do this with your lings, where you just kind of sit on your creep and you don't move at all, that's not justified. That's now a waste of your time as Zerg.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually, I like this because I like this style because it's definitely improvement from what I've been doing.
Yeah, so I mean, just go for that like optimal roach timing like we talked about just now. See how it goes for you. You'll get better at it as you do it more and more and more. And then always try to become faster and faster at making that conscious decision to be like, do I want to drone now or do I want to flood still? And as soon as you make that choice, whenever the choice does become I'm going to drone now, get to 3 base saturation as quick as you can, and literally do not what's it called? Do not take like all your gases super fast. Just know you should take gases 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all of them, roughly when you already have full saturation on all 3 mineral lines, and then take all gases at once and make another full round of drones that you can then, you know, saturate said gases with, and then make your army again.
That sounds good. I'm gonna practice that.
All right, man. And you're gonna have so much more success. Like your build. The big thing about it was it was just inefficient. Like it's just way too fast on the tech, way too fast on the gas, and it's delaying everything. And you're playing defensive anyways, so a little bit more of a mineral priority, and you're gonna be like, wow, I'm like my supply is so much higher than it would normally is. It's gonna feel really good. All right, dude.
And I got that replay too.
Nice.
And also, before you guys wanted to say thanks to Wally the robot for donating the code, if he's listening.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Wally. Wally the man. This is like his 3rd or 4th lesson he's bought, so he's a fucking boss. Shout out to him for sure.
Yes. All right, thanks, ViBE. I'll watch your stream. Thanks.
All right, take it easy, man. Good luck.
Thank you. Bye bye.
All right, guys. That has been another coaching lesson with our boy Time Clutches Drones, or Time Clutch. Much love, man. I wish you the best of luck, and if you guys who are watching right now, if you guys enjoyed this, just know I have a lot of other coaching lessons just like this all over my YouTube channel. And also other content too, like bronze GM replay analysis, all these kinds of things. So if you're looking to get better at StarCraft 2, you have tons and tons and tons of free content you can watch if you're interested. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So until then, much love. Shout out to Gecko for the $100 dono, and I don't know what he said, but we'll figure that out in a second. But see you guys in the next one. Peace.